Well, we're finally at the end of our season with our heirloom vegetable varieties, and this is the last variety that we're going to talk about, and this is our okra, and the cultivar is Clemson Spineless. Now, a lot of you are very familiar with Clemson Spineless, but you probably didn't realize that it was an heirloom. Just barely, though. It was introduced in 1939, and it was developed by Clemson University out of South Carolina. Also, Clemson Spineless was known as an All-America Selection vegetable, which we talked about some of those releases a little bit earlier in the season. So it has a lot of popularity. It's been around again since '39, and a lot of gardeners have tried it. Now, one thing nice about Clemson Spineless is it's not as spiny as some of the other varieties. Now, they call it spineless. There's still spines on them. They're just not as coarse, and so they don't bother you as much. Now, if you let them get a little bit larger and mature in size, you'll notice them, but again, they're still not as sticky as some of the other cultivars. Plus, you don't notice it on the foliage as much, but I still like to wear gloves when I'm harvesting them. Also, this particular cultivar doesn't have a lot of side branching out from the base like a lot of other cultivars, so that's pretty nice characteristic under some people's particular interest in the garden, where others may like them to sucker where they can top them out. But as a result, this one stays a little bit more compact, usually around 4, 5, 6 feet, depending on the growing conditions. So here's one again that is open pollinated, that does real well, that's been around for several years and has a lot of interest. But you know, if you've kept up with us over the summer, we've really showed you a lot of interesting cultivars, anything from our white tomatoes or marble tomatoes, white cucumbers. We've even showed you potatoes of different colors, squash. So there's a lot of heirlooms out there. But one thing that's happened, it's nice to go back to those and find out the history of them and see how well they do, because so many of them aren't even grown in home garden situations anymore. But one thing that you notice is that a lot of them are more susceptible to some of the disease problems. So you really have to do your homework when you're looking for heirloom varieties, because they may not perform as well in your garden compared to some of the new introduced hybrids. On the other hand, you might find open pollinated variety seeds a little bit cheaper, but I think overall in our garden this year we've been very pleased with the heirloom varieties. We've had a lot of success and some failures, but that's the fun part of gardening, especially in a home situation where you can experiment with them. So I encourage you, next year when you're purchasing your seeds, do a little bit of homework and just check to see if it's a hybrid or an open pollinated or heirloom variety.